Afternoon. Welcome to the February the 7th, 2023 meeting of the Chatham Finance Committee. I'm Joanne Sprague, Vice Chairman of the committee, sitting in for Chairman Stephen Daniel. Anyone recording this meeting, please address the chair, and this meeting is being recorded and will be available in the archives. Let's begin our meeting today with a roll call. Norma Avalar. No. Andy Young.
Yes.
Barbara Madison.
Yes.
Tommy Doan. John Papalardo.
Here.
Tracy Shields.
Here.
Kristen Andres.
Here.
Stephen Daniel. And the chair, Joanne Sprague, is here. Today we'll be taking a look at the fiscal year 24 budget for community development. Director Kathleen Donovan will be here, and she'll join in the discussion with our Finance Director, Alex Halala.
Yes, excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chair. Today we have community development, which is made up of the Community Development Department and also the Economic Development / Chamber of Commerce. And in the audience, we have Mary Kavanaugh to talk about the Chamber of Commerce budget and their request for an increase for FY 2024. But starting with the Community Development Department, as mentioned, we do have Katie Donovan here to talk about her department and some of the prior year accomplishments that were done last year. And for those of you following along in the budget book, it begins on page 172 of the budget book. And just some of the highlights, it's presented at $1,042,903 for FY 2024. An increase of $68,811, mainly under the purchase of services line item, which Katie would be, I'm sure, happy to speak to the need for that increase. So I'll just turn it over to Katie now, and I'll share my screen so people at home can see it as well, and they can follow along with the budget book.
Excuse me, Alex, before we go on, what was the final number on the expenditure summary?
I have $1,042,000, on the expenditures, that was the total amount. Hold on, let me just go to the budget book. And as noted with the digital budget book, we update these as we move along through the process, so it might have changed from when it was first presented. Just a minute, please. Okay, so for actually in the budget book right now, I have $1,040,515. So that's a change of 3.68 versus the prior year.
Thank you.
And breaking it down by, let's see. Oh, here we go. It's up on the screen now. So Community Development Department is an increase of 2.84 over the prior year. So this is, the chamber is separate. This is without the chamber in there. And as discussed, or just mentioned briefly, the major change here is in the purchase of services line item, which is going from $25,000 to $50,000 for FY 2024. And I'm sure Katie's happy to present her budget and answer any questions you might have.
Okay, Katie, you have the floor.
Sure. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So as Alex mentioned, the only real increase that community development is looking for this year's budget is an increase to the purchase of services line item. And the reason for that is what we're finding now as we move forward with some of our projects specifically related to housing, having additional funds for consultants as items may come up would be beneficial. If you'll recall, recently there's been conversation about the Stepping Stones Road parcel, and we had used funds available to seek out test fits for that parcel so that we would have an idea about what could potentially be built on that parcel before we went to town meeting to give information to the voters. And so with additional funds set aside for items such as that, as well as for the Historical Commission, who previously had a budget. They no longer do have a budget, and They're seeking consultants on various projects as well, and so we thought if this money was built into the Community Development Department, we would better be able to authorize funds to be spent. Again, that really is the only change, so if there's specific questions, I am happy to answer them.
Katie, you just mentioned,
Microphone.
Katie, you just mentioned the Stepping Stones project. What is the major thing that you and your office are working on right now that you could tell us about?
Sure, actually, there are quite a few projects that we're working on currently. From a housing perspective, I'll start there. We've got 3 projects that we're looking at. 2 are the subject of some community engagement that we're currently doing with our consultants, Barrett Planning Group, specifically related to the former Buckley property on Main Street and the former Diocese property on Meeting House Road. We are in the process of working on community engagement to determine the types of units and design that for what may be built on those parcels.
Excuse me, before you go on, do you use the same consultant for several projects, or do you have a different consultant for each project?
Sure. In this instance, we're using the Barrett Consulting Group for the community engagement, and they are working with a company called Dodson and Flinker. They are landscape architects and designers that will actually work on concept designs for the 2 parcels, again, as I mentioned, for the Buckley property and Meeting House Road. When we went out with an RFP to engage those consulting services, Stepping Stones Road was not on the table at that point in time. And so only recently, we had utilized a company called Util to do some test fits for us. So that design was something that we presented to the select board, or potential design was something that we presented to the select board back in December. So so we are not using Barrett Consulting Group for the Stepping Stones Road project. Part of the reason for that is that project, that parcel still needs to be approved by town meeting to be declared surplus. And so we have only spent a very small amount of money on looking at, again, the test fits for what could potentially be built there to inform the voters. The other parcels we are fully approved for by town meeting, and therefore we're moving forward with concepts and then design to determine what we will then seek a developer to come in to build for affordable and attainable housing on those parcels.
Any questions? Barbara?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Katie, what are the potential designs that are being looked at? Are we looking for greater density?
Sure, absolutely, and that is specifically what we are looking at for those parcels. The consultants will take into account, not only the neighborhood, they'll take into account the topography and what's really appropriate for the locations. They're going to come up with some concepts, 2 or 3 concepts for each site, and then we will then bring that to the Affordable Housing Trust and the Select Board for further refinement of where we want to, how we want to move forward. So they're actually going to propose at least 2 concepts, if not 3 concepts, for each site for consideration.
Do you have any idea of what the timeline on this is going to be?
So our next community engagement session is actually next Wednesday, February 15th. And if you'd like to, it will be here in this room at 6 p.m. It will also be a hybrid meeting if you'd like to join. What happens after that is a survey will go out to include some of the concepts that are proposed by the designer, as well as other examples of housing that's been built across the Cape for affordable housing in other locations in other communities. And that survey will help us to further refine what will be presented finally at a 3rd community engagement session, likely towards the end of March, beginning of April.
And whom does that survey go to?
It will be available for anyone to take it when it goes out. It'll go out after this February 15th meeting, and it will be available for any community member to be able to participate. We'll have it up on the website.
Do we find it online, or is it?
It will be found online, and we'll make sure to promote it through social media and through the town manager's main sheet as well.
Thank you.
Kristen?
In looking at those designs, are they all going to be on sewer? And is there a consideration for being close to net zero? I'm thinking from an environmental standpoint, either minimizing disturbance on the site, making sure they're in sewer and not adding more septic systems, and whether there's a consideration for the landscape and keeping some natural green space.
Sure, and I would say yes, so both the former Buckley property is currently, we have sewer available right there. The intent is that the sewer, we will move forward with a project once the sewer is available at the Meeting House Road property, but by the time we get through permitting and such, it will probably be around the same time, and so yes, both projects will be on sewer. Again, part of the reason we're working with a landscape architect is because we really want to work with the land and the topography, and we don't necessarily want to go in and clear cut, but we also want to maximize the use of the property as well. So that's why we're using designers to help us to be able to inform what's appropriate to be built on. And then again, is from the energy consumption side, I would say, that's something we would certainly look to in the future. When the process here will be, once we come up with a concept, we'll then do another RFP that we'll put out to developers to say what we want to see built on the site. Incorporated into that could be the net zero requirements or the appropriate, energy guidelines that we want to see from a town perspective.
Let it be noted that Norma Avalar is in the house. Welcome, Norma. We need the housing so badly, and I see we're taking every step that can be taken right now. What are we talking about in completion of numbers of housing? By how many years are we really out from being able to see the finished product in these places that we have? So just from a realistic time frame, I mean, we've got two parcels that we're specifically looking at that we know that we're moving forward with right now. The realistic timeline for permitting is probably at least a year to a year and a half, because once we get from now, I would say at least, we have to go through a process. We will likely go through the local initiative project for a 40B on both parcels to be able to, when I say maximize the density, I mean that in an appropriate manner. We're going to maximize the density, appropriately for each site. But in order to be able to do that, we will need to go through the 40B process, and that process in and of itself takes time because we need approval from the Department of Community and Housing Development through the state before we can even go to the Zoning Board of Appeals and apply for the 40B. So there's a lot of, background planning that goes into it. So typically, realistically, we're looking, from a, probably a 2 to 3 year timeframe from when we start construction. It could be a little bit sooner than that, but I think, just trying to manage expectations. And then moving forward, once construction starts, depending on the project, projects can take, a few years for development. So, we say anywhere from like 3 to 10 years, but really that's on the longer timeline. Thank you. It's just not as easy as we'd like for it to be when we need the housing now. Exactly. Immediately, and realizing that it's going to be a few years before we actually have that, the numbers of more than one or two at a time. Yes. And we're moving forward as quickly as we possibly can, and we'll continue to do that. It's just, we really want to make sure that we're doing appropriate community engagement on these two parcels. We had made a commitment to do that when we started this process, and we really want to make sure that we're getting input from the community. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Katie.
Hi, Katie. How many units estimate for between the two?
We're not sure yet, but again, if you're able to tune in to our community engagement on the 15th, we'll be talking more about that moving forward. And that's, again, because it'll be based on the type of units that are being built, whether or not they're, if they're small single family, whether they're rental or home ownership, whether they're, something more around a townhouse style, whether or not they're, multiple units in a building. We haven't made those determinations yet, so that will all help to determine the number of units that we'll get.
Any further questions? Norma, have you caught up with where we are?
No, I didn't come in on the background, so I
Okay. Okay, Katie, do you want to continue on?
Sure. So again, just from the budget book that you had received, I just wanted to note that there is a change in the prior year accomplishments. When the budget book was originally printed, there was something happened where a couple of the prior year accomplishments were mixed together. So just wanted to note that under number 2 of the passage of the protective bylaw amendments from the 2022 annual town meeting, there was actually 4. Alex has them up here on the screen, but there was the historic preservation incentives, there were revisions to the accessory dwelling unit bylaw, and then it was C and D from your book that were actually combined. So we had mandatory revisions under the floodplain section of the bylaw. And then there was also a 4th amendment to the bylaw for clarification and definition of sizes, and exemption from coverage for small sheds. And that came about from the Zoning Board of Appeals, realizing that a lot of what was the project, the applications that were coming before them were actually small garden sheds that people were coming in. People need a place to store their items. And so it was actually a recommendation of the Zoning Board of Appeals that we make those changes. So again, the historic preservation incentives, that was actually, the Historical Commission had come to community development to ask for staff to work on a bylaw that would actually promote the preservation of historic structures and to allow for homes that were eligible to be preserved on site while being able to allow dimensional variations for additions and such, to be able to preserve more homes rather than seeing more homes demolished. So again, just looking, at a little bit of the background from the Community Development Department, we processed, over 1,000 building permits. That was down a little bit from last year. Last year, I think it was just over 1,100. We did see a fewer number of dwelling units being built last year. So in 2021, we had 48 new dwelling units. And in 2022, we only had 27. I do expect that number to increase a little bit again next year, as the Zoning Board of Appeals was extremely busy in the later half of 2022. But we also saw the correlations of demolitions. So we look at those numbers each year. So the number of demolitions actually went down, I think, from 31 to 19. So we did, even though we saw a decrease in the amount of new dwellings, we also saw a decrease in the number of demolitions as well. And again, just some of the items that we're working on, the Eldridge Garage property, we have completed the permitting for that. We are hoping or aiming for construction this coming spring for it will likely be the parking lot that would be done before the summer season, and then the new building would be constructed after the summer season this year.
So, excuse me for interrupting, but at your visitor center, that takes the place of the booth that the Chamber of Commerce runs, or would that be in addition?
Right, no, it will be in addition. Actually, what the Eldridge Garage Property Planning Committee meant by a visitor center was really a location for restrooms. They want to see maybe like an interactive map on the inside, just with some highlights. So it would not be a staffed location from the Chamber's perspective. It would be an area where, people are able to, park their vehicle. We'll have water bottle filling stations. Our intention is to have, as I said, the interactive maps, maybe some charging stations on the inside of, device charging stations on the inside of the building that's being constructed. And they also want to honor the Eldridge family. And the intent there is that there'll be, photographs of the site over the years, just to kind of pay homage to the group, or to the Eldridge family that owned it for so long.
Excuse me, Norma.
Thank you. At one point, they were discussing paid parking, paid restrooms at the lower end of the 400 section of town. Where is that now?
So the There's no intention for paid restrooms, but the intention at the Eldridge Garage is, it has been a paid parking lot for the past few years. It's been run by a company called Chatham Valet, and it has been paid parking for I think since 2018. The intention moving forward is that that is what would continue. We haven't had any direction changing that in any way. There is a larger paid parking discussion going on in town, but no decisions have been made on that at this point in time.
May I ask?
Yes.
I would consider that not good. First of all, the people in the 400 block, it's difficult to get people to go down there anyway. They stop at the Mayflower shop. They forget that there's quite a bit of commercial activity from that particular spot down to the center of the intersection. And many of the people in that area think that the paid parking, the required paid parking, hurts their business. And if that's so, I just think that's discriminatory, and I don't think it should continue.
Thank you. I'll just go back to the intent of the paid parking in that lot, is that for many years before it was owned by the town, the people did pay to park there and to be driven over to the beach. It was really more dedicated towards beach parking, and that is really what the thought is at this point in time. A lot of people do park there during the day, and Chatham Valet, to go to the beach, and Chatham Valet actually has a golf cart shuttle that they use to shuttle folks over to the beach. So again, before it was a town-owned lot, it was a paid parking lot, and so I can bring your comments to the select board, but I would have to.
I would think that might hurt the businesses in the 400 block if people have to pay to park across the street. It was never a parking lot. It was always part of Eldridge Garage parking lot. And I think to charge one place in town and not the others is unfair.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Thank you.
Katie, with regard to that, it's still free parking, however, for Chatham taxpayers, correct?
That's correct, yes. So residents and taxpayers are exempt if they have a valid sticker.
Okay, all right, thank you, appreciate it. Another question. ADUs.
Yes,
We spent an awful lot of time on ADUs a few years ago,
yes.
including fears of massive overdevelopment based on that. I assume that has not taken place, or I would have heard of it.
That has not taken place, and I would say unfortunately, we've had 3 approved special permits for ADUs and only 1 occupied at this point in time. And so the board, the planning board last year proposed a revision that was adopted by town meeting that took away the requirement that the owner actually be on site year-round, and to allow for the opportunity for, perhaps a second homeowner to add an ADU as well. We have a lot of phone calls in the department for people wanting to build ADUs, but for some reason, a lot of people have not moved forward with that. One thing I can say, though, is the Community Development Partnership, Lower Cape Community Development Partnership, actually was successful in gaining some ARPA funds, and they actually have a program going now where they will assist homeowners in their, the process of getting an ADU permitted. I don't know if there's any money towards the construction, but they're guiding people on how to, go through the process of getting an ADU. And that's not just in Chatham, but it's actually, I think Cape-wide at this point.
Is there any contemplation of another proposed change to the ADU bylaw?
Not at this point in time. I think that the planning board was hoping to see if this would produce any more units, if this change that they did make. I'm thinking, their commitment has always been to continually revisit it and to see if further changes need to be made. So I anticipate that that's something that they will do. But with the original proposal that was approved in 2018, they came back, or was it, I'm sorry, I think it was 2019. They came back and reviewed, made the changes at this past town meeting, and I think they've made that commitment to do it, to periodically look at it to see what needs to be changed.
Any consideration of by right?
So some of them are by right now. That was one of the other changes that was made, is that if an ADU is entirely within an existing structure, and that structure is non-conforming, as long as it doesn't, if there's no changes other than egresses, that ADU would be by right. So they have tried to make it easier for folks to move, to be able to construct an ADU.
Thank you.
Kristen?
Just a question going back to parking. Are there going to be electric charging stations?
Yes, I think that there are 6 EV charging stations, 3 for level 2, all for level 2, but we're bringing in the infrastructure to make sure that level 3 will be supported when they're more readily available.
Katie, I'd like to follow up on what Norm was saying. I hadn't thought about that aspect, but it is worth discussing with the selectmen, I think. The disadvantage of one group of merchants having paid parking in their area versus, the rest in town having free parking. So I think that's something worth being addressed. And Andy asked the questions I was thinking about the ADU. We have great ideas in this town, but boy, we really have a hard time getting them going.
Right.
And people being willing to take advantage of them. So at least the ideas are out there and we're trying. But no matter how much we talk about loving affordable housing and working toward it, we are pretty slow at finally getting there, except for these wonderful few properties you've got now that we've actually able to get a start on.
Sure. And, just to that comment, I think that one of the things that's important to remember is that the affordable housing that's been being built in other communities, for the most part, has been by private developers. It hasn't necessarily been by the communities. Only recently is that taking place in all of the communities. And we're probably around the same time frame for what we're trying to do. Other communities might be a little bit more ahead of the game with parcels that they've acquired or buildings that they've acquired. But really, I think what has happened and why we see other communities getting more affordable housing is because they have the land that Chatham doesn't necessarily have.
Norma?
To refer to what the chairman just said, maybe some of our wonderful ideas are not so wonderful. Maybe we need to reconsider them. We thought perhaps that the ADU idea would go over well. It hasn't gone over well at all. So maybe we have to rethink some of the ideas that we have put forth into something that would be more palatable and more agreeable and more successful, and find a way to make that work. Because I think if an idea, no matter how good it is, if it's not working, you need a different idea.
Actually, I couldn't agree with you more. So one of the things that our new Housing and Sustainability Director is working on is identifying areas and working with the Planning Board, the Affordable Housing Trust, and the Select Board to determine areas within our zoning bylaw that we can make it easier for housing to be built. And so we're looking at it from all aspects at this point in time.
Thank you. Continue, Katie.
Sure. So typically from the format, I think, what I've kind of covered at this point in time, the aspects I typically cover. So from the perspective, so we have 9 full-time employees in the Community Development Department. We also have 2 positions where we have contract inspections done by our plumbing and gas inspector as well as the electrical inspector. And so again, those 2 positions are paid per inspection. So they're not in the overall operating budget. They actually come out of the Inspectional Services Revolving Fund. And so, again, they're paid on a per inspection basis, so they're not full-time employees for the department.
I think that's about it, unless you have any specific questions. As we said, the personnel salaries make up the bulk of the budget here. However, again, it's a minor increase over the prior fiscal year. And again, I think Katie enumerated what that was in the $25,000 increase for the purchase of services to support some of the housing initiatives as well as the Historical Commission.
Barbara?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say that on a few occasions, I've interacted with Christina Bassett, and I think she is thorough, accommodating, and just very efficient. So good for her. That's well-deserved promotion, I think.
Thanks. We agree. She's fantastic. All of this department staff are fantastic. We're very lucky, and I'm happy to say, I actually said it for the first time, we're fully staffed in community development for the first time in quite a while. So we're really excited to be able to move some projects forward.
Is that it?
I think so. Unless there's any further questions.
Well, I think we've
All right.
covered just about everything, Katie. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Katie. And there are no capital requests for FY 2024. Usually there's a small one every 3 years or something for replacement of a vehicle, but right now there's no capital request for 2024.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll move on to.
Keep up the good work, Katie.
We'll move on to the Economic Development Chamber of Commerce. As stated, I have Mary Kavanaugh's here to talk about the Chamber of Commerce budget. Not sure why this ends up in the Community Development Department, but it has in the past years, so we've kept it there. So again, for FY 2024, and Mary, I don't know if you've seen the budget book, but we were able to get your logo in here as well. That's great. And in your budget book are some of the highlights from the current fiscal year, and then they're requesting an increase to $100,000 from the current fiscal year. So, Mary, I'll let you address the committee and present your budget request.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, everyone, for... Oh, now it's on. Okay. Thank you, Alex, and thank you, everyone, for having me here today. As Alex said, we've requested $100,000 total this year from the town. $75,000 of that would go towards our staffing at the Chamber Merchants booth on Main Street, and our visitor information desk at the Bassett House, and also towards our operations staff at the Bassett House as well. I believe you've all seen my request that's in the budget book. I do want to call attention on when I was looking over everything in preparation for this meeting, I noticed a major typo that I just wanted to clarify for you folks. So we had mentioned that since September 2021 through the end of October 2022, we had provided 110 informative emails to our membership, and we had set a total of 4,462 events, job postings, and news releases. That should have been 536. I apologize. I looked at that number. I was like, oh, that's not right. So there were.
Excuse me 1 minute. That's under prior year accomplishments?
That is in the program description at the pretty much the beginning of the request.
And I don't think I included that
Oh, did
part
you
in the
not
budget
include that?
book, so this is what we have for the program description. But again, that's nice to know, so we can highlight it for ourselves.
Yeah, okay, so I'll just move along. So 536, a total of 536 events, job postings, and news releases were shared on our website, which is chathaminfo.com, and Facebook. And I'm sure you all would love to hear, 63 of the news releases were all on behalf of the town. We've really been working hard the last few years to share town information. We did a lot of that work during the pandemic, and it has continued since then. So notices that you all put out, we share them on our website, on our news page, which then also gets shared to Facebook. And we also, when you post to Facebook, we'll share information as well on our Facebook page. Just trying, to get the info out there. Some other things that we've been working on. So currently we have, between the Chamber and the Merchants, 323 members for the Chamber and 133 of those are also merchant members. And like I said, we've been working closely with the town, businesses. Also, we have relationships with the school district. If they're needing help getting information out about different things that they might have going on, we've really been working with them to try and help in that area as well. Have done some work in the past with the 365 task force. I also am on the committee for the the Chatham Historic Group, as well as I sit on the Parking Solutions Committee group that Katie was just referring to. And if there's ever wanted to put out there, if there's ever a need for anyone else to be part of the housing partnership moving forward, we would love to get involved in that as well. Marketing and social media, we have a part-time marketing specialist who handles all of our newsletters to our members that go out on a weekly basis. And then we also have a newsletter that goes out to visitors. We've collected many, almost 900 emails from visitors. They've either partaken in the scavenger hunt for the Oars in the Stores scavenger hunt that happens in the summer, or they attend an event and we have the opportunity to collect their emails. So, as I said, the list is about 900 people, and during these months, an email goes out monthly letting people know what's going on in town, whether businesses are having promotions, if there's something that the town wants to get out, we include that as well. So we've been doing that. Our marketing and social media person is doing that, and then in the in-season months, they go out more frequently because there's obviously a lot more going on, so we need to get that info out. And then, let's see, another initiative that we've been part of, so there's an initiative called the LC3, and what it is, it's a collaboration of all the Cape chambers, 14 towns. Truro is not part of it. So we meet, the executive directors meet twice a month and just kind of, share information, work collaboratively on things. And this year, big project that we worked on, it was a campaign to promote all 14 towns through social media and print marketing. It was called the Guidebooks Cape Cod campaign, and we had posters that were put up. Everyone put the link up on their website and shared information to direct people towards it. And what you would be able to do, if you clicked on that link, you would be able to see all the guidebooks from every town, and you'd be able to leaf through them all, and it was all digital. So it was a great initiative that the group worked on this year, and Chatham was part of that. So just wanted to share that with you all. And then for notable accomplishments, so did they see this part? Okay, so the guidebook, more than 25,000 copies of the Chatham guidebook were circulated this year. Close to 20,000 inquiries were made to our staff, either at the visitor desk, at the Bassett House, or the booth on Main Street, or via phone call or email. So those inquiries were all handled by our staff on behalf of the chamber and the town. In June, we kind of kicked off the season with our Hats Off to Chatham fashion show, which we're currently working on planning the 2023 edition. So that was a great event. It was a great year for Art in the Park and Oars in the Stores. A new initiative that we did last year was we had one whale was a raffle whale. So there were a total of 60, and one of them people could purchase a raffle ticket for versus bidding on and bidding for good. Just thought that, not everybody can get into that bidding game. So wanted to have something that would be more viable for everyone to take part of. So the raffle tickets were like $10 each, and we sat at the entrance to the park on band concert nights and sold tickets, and it was great. It was, it was the first time we tried it. I think we're going to tweak it a little bit this year, but I think it just opens the project up to more people to be able to be involved. So that was great. Our website, if you haven't taken a look at it, I encourage you to do that. We have, the town is featured on the website. You can click on the town seal and be brought right to the town website. We have some of our members have placed ads on the website, so it's a great tool and interactive and user-friendly site. So I'd encourage you to check that out. A couple years ago, we started some committees: our beautification committee, marketing, social media, and membership. And our beautification committee has had huge success in creating the brick walkway that meanders through Cape Gould Park. It has about 4,000 to 5,000 bricks in it, and right now 1,000 of them are engraved with messages from people all over the world. It's been amazing how important bricks are to people. Who would have thought? And we have 600 more bricks on order that are going to be going in this spring. So it was a great project, and just very successful, and we look forward to doing more beautification projects, maybe some more work in the park and then other areas in town. And then marketing, social media, that committee, like I said, has been working to expand our social media and marketing presence. And our membership committee has worked really hard on creating a membership video, the benefits of membership. And that can be accessed from our website. We rolled that out at our annual meeting back in October. And let's see, what else? What were some other highlights? Let's see, the annual meeting was in October. That was very well attended, held at the Beach Club. And then towards the end of the year, Oktoberfest happened. As you know, our Merchants Association takes the lead on Oktoberfest and Christmas Stroll and Mondays on Main. And we are there to support them. So in October, late October was Oktoberfest. Many thousands of people embarked on downtown area. It was a great event. And then same with Christmas Stroll. It was unbelievable, the amount of people that were in town, especially Friday night. The horses were back, and yeah, it was just a really great event that we had. And I think that's everything I have. As I said in my document, I appreciate all that you do to support us, and we enjoy collaborating with the town and working with the town, and hope that we can continue to do that in the future.
Thank
If you have
you.
any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mary. Any questions? Andy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe this is my annual thing, but the $100,000 expense requested is probably what, 1/3 of the total chamber budget?
Just about, yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, and the increase of 11,000 is, in this at least, is labeled as Econ Dev Leadership. Can you describe what that is?
Right, so
So the 75 is for, I have a frog in my throat here. The 75 is for the staffing. And then the, oh, thank you. The additional 25 would be put towards, so we have our marketing and social media that we do. So we have a part-time person that we pay to do that. So money would go towards that to be able to continue to grow that. And then other initiatives that we do, like the advertising, we're present in the Cape Cod Chronicle once a month for the whole year. We do advertising in the Chatham Living magazine as well. So funding for that and different things that we do in the town, different programs that go on. For instance, the fireworks that are happening July 2nd in conjunction with the Chatham A's and Chatham Bars Inn. We like to be part of those types of things as well. So the money that we receive over and above the staffing money can go towards initiatives like that, that we, can be part of and support in the town.
Okay, no, I appreciate that, and I think in general, the chamber does a good job. It's just sort of my annual thing is, this is essentially a private sector effort, and asking for the town taxpayers to contribute to that.
Yes, I see where you're coming from, but hope that, people can understand that we work to the benefit of our town and our businesses and our community with all the different initiatives that, we work on. Events that we have, a lot of times, if there's money left from the event, that gets put back into the community through a donation, whether it be to Monomoy Community Services, whether it be to the Chatham Children's Fund. So the money that comes in is definitely being put back out into the community. And, we believe that's what we should be doing, so.
Right. Usually I just highlight it so that people understand both the amount of help that the taxpayers provide to the chamber in terms of percentage of its operating budget, as well as just the absolute dollar amount. And this is a 12.4% increase, $11,000. That's not a lot of absolute dollars, but if it keeps going up, next thing it becomes a much bigger number. The trend since '21 has been, a little steady, and then, bump it up some in '23. Right now, it's a much bigger number for '24. Is there a top? Is there a maximum that we ought to be spending on it? I'm not sure. But I think it's a question worth asking.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mary, you want to respond to that?
I mean, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if there's a top. I don't think we've been over asking. And I really believe in the work that we do. And like I said, we're putting the money back into the community. Hopefully, I think they go back into programs that are near and dear to people's hearts, and they can feel good about what they're doing. So.
John?
Thank you, Mary. So picking up on where Andy was, we're seeing a 12.36% increase in the ask. Is the budget of the chamber increasing 12.36%? Or is this an additional expense you're asking the town to take on?
Our budget is increasing. We don't have a lot of staff, but we need to make sure we keep the staff that we have and, can do the work that we need to have done. We did have a previous
part-time person that was, doing our social media work, and she moved on. But in order to, keep that level of work and, increase it a little bit, we wanted to kind of do some more things. We had to pay the new person a little bit more money. So I mean, it is going up.
If I might, Madam Chair.
Sure.
follow up. No, I can appreciate that. I understand that. I deal with that as well. I guess, let me try to reframe the question. So the chamber is a membership-based organization, and nestled within the chamber is the Merchants Association as well, correct?
Correct, yes,
And those are dues-paying memberships.
correct.
Have the dues for the members of the chamber and the merchants in the chamber gone up?
Not since I have been here.
when
I
was
started
that?
in October of 2018. And then, as you all know, the pandemic hit. So, we weren't going to increase any memberships at that point.
Right.
So we haven't looked at that yet, but that's definitely, it's always on the table. But, people are coming back from the pandemic. In my document, I stated that, 2022 was kind of the new normal. There's no more masks, other mandates have lifted, but people are still experiencing the same issues as far as, hiring and keeping employees. So, we were worried that we would lose membership because of the pandemic. So we were able to, sustain, so we don't want to be, hitting people with increases in their dues as well, so.
One last question, if I
Sure.
might. Thank you. So I see under the proposal, 100,000, 75 for the visitor center. Does that cover the visitor center, or is the chamber also providing some of its revenues that it generates to support the visitor center?
That covers the salaries for the booth downtown and the visitor center, and it also helps a little bit with the operations staff member at the Bassett House.
Okay, so if this were funded, the chamber merchants wouldn't need to support the staffing for the visitor center and the booth?
Correct. And that, it's my understanding that it has been that way now for years. This way, people can be paid, the town doesn't have to take on them as employees. We do all that.
Right, I just wanted to understand that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Barbara, and then Norma.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mary, what are the dues?
The chamber dues for a retail business is $270. And then if people elect to join the Merchants Association as well, that's an additional $70. The dues is a little bit different for restaurants, banking institutions, it's a little higher, but the basic for a retail business is $270.
Thanks.
Yep.
Norma.
You mentioned that the Chamber of Commerce is increasing its asking of the town by, I think it's 12.75%. What was the interest, what was the increase for the dues for the Chamber of Commerce in that same period?
I think I just mentioned that we haven't had an increase in dues since I've been the executive director. I started in 18, and then the pandemic hit, and we haven't increased dues as of yet.
Why not?
Because folks were struggling through the pandemic, trying to keep their businesses open and trying to keep their employees working. So we didn't think that increasing our dues at that time would be beneficial to the chamber or to our members.
But the increase in dues paid by the others in town, they also were struggling. They also had to go through the pandemic, and many of them were not working. So what my question is, why are the dues not favorably enforced as far as increases are concerned by all involved?
I can bring that up to our board and, you know, see if they want to move forward with that. In the past, the decision was made that they didn't want to do that, so we did not do that.
One more thing.
Sure.
I can understand they didn't want to, but maybe the people who had to pay the increase didn't want to do that either.
I'm not sure I follow what you mean. There wasn't an increase, so you're talking about people in general in the community. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, everybody was in the same pinch.
Right.
And I just wonder why some people's dues, or whatever you want to call them, were increased when others were not. But the others who were not involved in the increase still had to pay to help support all the town committees or whatever you want. And I just wondered why the chamber's dues were not increased, because the town, everything else was increased. Did that ever come up?
Yeah, we haven't, for 2024, you know, we haven't talked about increasing our dues. I mean, this request is for fiscal year '24, which starts for us, October 1st. So, I mean, we may be doing that as we approach that year.
Alex, I need some help with this budget. I just happened to look on the screen, and I see it's different from what I was looking at in my book. So is the $100,000, that's the request, and what is the administration?
That is the request, and that is what we are putting forward for the
You are-
proposed FY 2024 budgeting.
Okay.
And just a editorial note, I think $100,000 was requested last year as well, but we didn't recommend the full funding. So this request for the increased funding has happened previously, and we sort of cut back, but we thought that with the increased, the staffing of the booth, as well as some of the reasons Mary enumerated, that we could put forward the $100,000 request.
Okay, then my next question is of Mary, now that I understand where we're going. Okay, so the increase you've asked for, have you already said so many times what you want to use that for? Can you summarize that for me again?
Sure.
This is for the extra, why you need the extra money?
Well, so there's, for the salary part of it, the 75,000 part of it, so you have increases, the hourly wage is, it goes up every year. I don't think we've quite made the $15 mark. So there's increase there, and then because of the increase, there'll be increase in all the withholdings that we take care of, for the payroll expenses. And then the difference is the 25,000, I think how it broke out last year. Do you have that?
I do. I think it was $15,000 for the, for the economic development, what we
Right.
call leadership, and $25,000 for this year. So that's an increase of $10,000 in that, for that purpose.
Right. So that portion, that $10,000 increase has to do with the marketing and social media. We pay someone part-time to do that for us, and just being able to do that better and better, as well as more marketing exposure, whether that be through advertising or just different types of promotions. And then, to be representative in the town of, different programs that are going on. For example, the fireworks that are happening in July, but that actually would be in this year's.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I get the,
Yeah,
con-
that-
I
yeah.
get the connection
Yeah.
now. So my next question is, and maybe this was already asked, the $15,000 budgeted for economic development leadership, how is that spent?
So that's in the current one, right?
Yeah, that's the current year, and I believe that's the marketing and the
Yeah.
social media
Yeah,
that.
that's the marketing, the social media, those types of things.
Okay, thank you. And there's one thing I don't see in here is revenue versus expenses.
We break even, we don't really show a profit. I don't have our copy of our budget with.
Yeah, I didn't bring that. It really, the revenue, it comes from your membership dues as well as, the town contribution to their budget. But I think has been stated in the past, the revenue that the tourists bring in through the marketing of Chatham and the, efforts of the chamber manifest itself in different ways.
Yeah, I'd like to see next time a little more explanation on that side of it. I will say personally, I enjoy every one of your events. I and my family, from the whales to the Christmas stroll, to especially your Oktoberfest, they're all wonderful. But I would like a little more explanation, and I think we all probably would, of why we're asking the taxpayers to give you this money. Not that we're saying it's not deserved by you, but we want a really full picture of why we should invest the taxpayers' money. And that should, as I say, that's obvious because as a taxpayer, I know I profit from all the events that you put on. But I think it'd be helpful to all of us to have that balance in there in your next budget.
Yeah.
Be ready to explain to us
Yeah.
what
think-
exactly where the taxpayers' money's
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. I think I have a detailed hard copy of the chamber's budget, so I can provide that to you for in advance of your next meeting.
I think we've been asking for that for a few years. That would be very, very helpful to have a budget. Okay, Tracy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to echo those sentiments that I really do agree that the events and programming brings a lot of quality to the town, and I think ultimately probably is one of the contributing factors to our growing property values is that people are utilizing their Chatham homes more of the year. The Christmas stroll being a great example of that. And it sounded to me like part of what you were saying with some of the section of this increased funding is so that you can have footing to engage with CBI and whomever to help sponsor things like the fireworks. Is that
Right.
correct?
Correct, yes.
Barbara?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mary, with respect to the taxpayers who don't enjoy seeing as many visitors as come to the town, I have to say that if you're responsible for most of what has been happening over the last couple of years, you've done an exceptional job.
Well, I can't take all the credit for that. It's a team effort, but thank you.
Norma?
Of all the various things you put on to bring people in town, which are wonderful, what gives the town the greatest return on our investment?
Wow. That's a good question. Well, I would have to say a lot of people walk through the park for art in the park. A lot of people are involved in bidding on those whales and really get great joy out of that. The scavenger hunt, there are people that come every year and they have to go get their scavenger hunt books at the chamber booth and, do the scavenger hunt. It's hard to pick one particular one. I mean, Christmas stroll is very popular. People plan for that months in advance. Something that the chamber doesn't take part in other than to be able to provide electricity to the vendors in the parking lot at the town hall is First Night, and First Night brings a ton of people in. So I don't think there's just one event that would be done that brings in. There's a lot.
Oh, okay, thank you. Do you have more to present, or is that it for you?
I think I'm good. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, so that is community development for today. I just want to mention a couple of things for your future meeting schedule. As I mentioned, I think unfortunately, the chair of the CPC, Community Preservation Commission, is not available on the 9th, so we will probably cancel that 1:30 meeting. However, the Select Board is having a working session that night at 5:30 for the capital projects. So I would encourage members of the Finance Committee to attend that virtually or in person. So it will be at the small meeting room, I believe, here. But it is a Teams meeting, so you can view it online and participate.
Let me interrupt, Alex, before you go any further on the capital projects. Are you going to be talking about the separate articles, the capital articles? Because I think we're all interested in knowing what that is going to add to the budget and whether it will affect the tax rate.
Right, and this will be a very, this is the first discussion that the Select Board will be previewing some of these. And there are some large projects that we've identified in the capital plan, such as the Bell Filter Press, for which borrowing would be incurred, the salt shed storage, sand salt storage shed at the transfer station improvements. I believe that the Council on Aging Board of Directors are going to be making a recommendation to the Select Board tonight, so discussion may occur regarding that as well. And some other smaller projects, the Harbor Master's storage shed or storage building for $600,000. There's another $400,000. So it's a lot of larger projects. Detailed information report is almost done. So that will be provided to the Select Board. And but again, some of the consultants will be coming in to make presentations, and to save the taxpayers' money, we're not going to bring them back for a separate presentation. So if you can't participate, we would encourage that you can watch it either tonight or a later date.
And when is that again?
That is Thursday at, I believe, 5:30. Yep, for this Thursday, the 9th at 5:30.
And just for our general information, when will you be back?
I will not be here for that meeting, and I will be gone next week. I will be back in-person meetings on the 21st.
Okay.
And so for your future agenda items, on February 14th, we have all things public safety. So we'll have Chief Mike and Chief Dave here to discuss the police and fire departments, as well as the animal control and Cape and Islands EMS, as well as some of their the capital requests that they're making. All those are under the the capital budget article. And then on February 16th, Terry Whalen will be Principal Projects and Operations, so all those facilities and administrative type of across-the-board budget. And then on February 21st, there's the report of the Finance Committee back to the Select Board. So I believe that the chair has reached out to you all to get some initial comments on what you've heard so far, since you've heard the majority of the larger budgets anyway.
Okay. And the February 23rd?
February 23rd, we haven't programmed yet. Probably, I believe that the community preservation articles might be back before you on that date.
Okay, and to the members, I would appreciate if you let me know, if you know ahead of time, a week or so, if there are meetings that you know that you won't be able to attend. I and the chairman will want to know about that. Appreciate that. So, yes, Andy.
Alex, you said the meeting on February 9th may be canceled? Is that a may or is that a will?
If you give me about a half an hour, it will be canceled.
Okay, all right, thank you. No, I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't able to program anyone in there. As I said, I won't be here on February 9th, or else I would have gone over general government. And there, in the agenda report for the 9th, for the Select Board, there's a fairly detailed description of debt. So we'll be talking about that as well.
Okay, so I'll just keep my powder dry for Thursday, late afternoon.
Yes,
Okay,
please.
all right, thank you.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Norma.
for the February 9th meeting, If we cannot be here, is there printed material available that we could study?
Yes, the agenda will be out, I believe this afternoon or tonight for that meeting, so the select board agenda will be out. We usually provide a hard copy for you. We can leave it at the Finance Committee mailbox at Town Hall if that's acceptable.
Thank you.
Okay, so once again, February 9th is canceled.
The Finance Committee, but the select board are meeting.
Yes, for us.
And Alex, the select board this evening are considering our recommendations for the electronic voting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so just to announce that our next meeting will be Thursday, February the 14th. Thank
Tuesday.
you to,
Tuesday, February 14th.
right, thank you. Thanks to Mark Van Bork, Dallas Heller for Channel 18 help that they always give us. And so I'd like a motion to adjourn, please.
Will we adjourn?
Second?
Second?
Okay. Andy?
Aye.
Barbara? Aye. John?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Norma? Aye. And the chair says aye. Did I get everyone? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you all.